My wife and I found out we were expecting about a month ago, but after an argument, I discovered some truths that ruined our marriage. We have been married for years, both 28 years old, and plan to continue with the pregnancy. Dina and I went to high school together but started dating much later. We were friends in high school, but she moved away for college, where she met her first husband, Alex. They got married right after graduation when she was about 22 and stayed together for a year before going their separate ways. I'll explain the reason later. Dina and I drifted apart after high school but reconnected when she moved back here after her divorce. A mutual friend invited her to a Thanksgiving dinner a few years ago, and that's where we met again for the first time since high school. We talked that day, and I ended up asking her out, but she said she had just gone through a bad divorce and wasn't ready to date yet, but would be happy to be friends again. I was fine with that, so we exchanged numbers and started talking more often. We became really good friends over a year, and eventually, she asked me out. I accepted because I liked her and could see a future with her. After dating for a few years, we decided to get married, and now we've been together for almost 4 years, married for 2 when we found out we were expecting. We were thrilled about the pregnancy. Our relationship had been wonderful and beautiful. We had arguments like any other couple but always made up within hours, and there were never any significant fights, just small and insignificant disagreements. However, our first big fight happened when we started discussing baby names. It had only been a month, but Dina was very excited and began talking about names as soon as we found out she was pregnant. She seemed quite insistent on the name Philip if it was a boy. It was a nice name, and I didn't have an issue with it, especially since we were just throwing around ideas and could change our minds later. Unfortunately, we hit a snag when we announced the pregnancy to our friends about 2 weeks ago. We decided to host a dinner for some friends to share the news. Our families already knew, and we had celebrated with them, but it was a family-only event, and our friends were still in the dark. So we decided to have a separate dinner for them. Everyone was genuinely happy for us. Later, Dina started talking about baby names during the dinner. When she mentioned that she was thinking of naming the baby Philip if it was a boy, I noticed her best friend seemed a bit shocked but didn't say anything. I didn't think much of it. After the dinner, Dina said she was going out for a smoke but had forgotten her lighter and asked to borrow mine. I took the opportunity to join her for a smoke. Up until then, everything was going well, but as soon as we were out of earshot, she told me she had something important to discuss with me and began speaking in a low voice. At first, I thought she was trying to seduce me, and I was horrified, but instead, she said something much worse. Apparently, Philip was the name Dina had chosen during her first pregnancy when she was still with Alex. Wendy began by saying I probably already knew this, but I had no idea. Everything she told me was new information. She told me Alex and Dina separated after she lost the baby at 5 months, and Alex started cheating on her because he was devastated by the loss. Wendy and Dina have been friends since childhood, so Wendy knew everything. She also knew that Dina and Alex had wanted to name their baby Philip if it was a boy. Unfortunately, after Dina lost the baby, they began fighting almost every day, and Alex ended up cheating with another woman from work. He confessed to her after a few weeks of the affair, and they got divorced. I had never heard this version of what happened until Wendy told me. This isn't something people generally discuss, so I couldn't have found out the truth from other sources. Dina had told me she and Alex divorced because they fought a lot and were incompatible. They married young and it was a mistake. That was the version I heard from her and believed until recently. I never imagined she could be hiding the truth from me because I didn't think she had any reason to lie. Wendy said she had a feeling I didn't know that Philip was the name Dina had chosen with Alex and felt it was her duty to tell me, despite being Dina's best friend. I thanked her for telling me about the name's context, but she had unknowingly told me much more. I did my best to stay calm and composed while our friends were still at the house, but as soon as they left, I confronted Dina about what Wendy had told me. Dina instantly denied everything and said Wendy must have been joking. But I took it seriously because I knew Wendy wasn't joking. I kept pressing Dina to tell me the truth, and she eventually confessed that everything Wendy said was true. She and Alex separated because he cheated after she lost the baby. Her entire family knew, and some of her friends did too. She hadn't kept in touch with many friends from here when she was with Alex, except for Wendy. So most people here didn't know about her pregnancy or the loss since she hadn't shared anything on social media. She planned to announce it around 6 months, but unfortunately, she never got that far. She told me she left Alex and all her friends behind and moved back here because staying there was too painful. Wendy always knew everything and assumed that once Dina and I started dating, I would also know. But given the sensitive nature of the topic, it never came up, and I never discovered the truth until that day. Her family knew but were instructed not to tell me because Dina didn't want me to know. She said it was really personal and a very traumatic experience for her, so she never wanted to talk about it again. As much as I wanted to leave the subject alone for her sake, I couldn't do it because I still needed answers. I told her I respected that it was a traumatic event for her, but I needed to discuss it and understand certain things. I couldn't understand why she hadn't told me the truth, even after we got married. I felt it was something really important that I should have been informed about. More importantly, she was planning to name our baby the name she had chosen with her cheating ex-husband. This seemed strange, and I wanted to discuss why she was so set on this name. According to her logic, if she had left everything behind in her past, including Alex and all their friends, because it was too painful to relive, shouldn't she have left that name behind too? It didn't make sense. I was trying to talk to her, but she kept ignoring me and scrolling through Instagram on her phone. I got a bit irritated and told her she needed to talk to me because she owed me the truth. She exploded at me when I said this, yelling that now that I knew the truth, she didn't owe me anything. She then called me a narcissistic, jealous, insecure person, forcing her to talk about things she wanted to forget because of how traumatic they were for her. I apologized immediately but also mentioned that even if we didn't talk about it at that moment, we needed to clear everything up eventually because I felt betrayed and hurt. It seemed like she didn't care about my feelings. She told me she never wanted to talk about it again. The fight escalated further, and we argued for almost half an hour before she finally gave up and started packing. She said she would stay with her parents for a while until she calmed down and suggested I think about my behavior with a cooler head and act like an adult instead of a child. I was too tired of fighting, so I let her go and didn't stop her. I also didn't appreciate her trying to minimize my feelings and act like it wasn't a big deal that she had lied to me for years about why she really divorced Alex. I was very angry, upset, and hurt, so I didn't think it was worth arguing to stop her from leaving. Besides, this was the first time we had a fight so big that she actually left, so I had no idea what to do next. I tried to distract myself in the following days by focusing on work. I kept hoping she would call or message, but there was only silence from her, which was even more disappointing. I would have preferred if she had called to yell at me. The silence was much worse than the fight. After a while, I couldn't take it anymore because I wanted answers and a resolution. About a week and a half ago, I went to her parents' house after work to talk to Dina, but when I got there, they told me she wasn't with them and asked me to leave because I had caused their daughter a lot of pain, and she was devastated. They said I was selfish for forcing her to talk about things she wasn't ready to discuss just because I felt bad, even though she had gone through something 10 times worse. They also mentioned that I hadn't even tried to contact her in the days after she left and said she had been waiting for me to call. When I didn't call for a whole day, she decided to go on an impromptu trip to clear her head. I begged them to tell me where she was, but they said they couldn't tell me. If I wanted to talk to her, I could call her myself. Then they closed the door in my face and told me to leave them alone because they wouldn't help me with this. It was humiliating to be treated this way. I was more concerned about where Dina was, so I went home and decided to call her. Fortunately, she answered my call but still refused to tell me where she was. I didn't apologize to her on the phone because I still didn't think I had said anything out of line, but I told her that I wanted to talk with her. She responded by saying that she still wasn't ready to have a conversation if that's what I meant, and more importantly, now that she had finally had some time to think because she was alone, she was reevaluating our relationship and wasn't sure if she wanted to continue with me. She said she liked the name Philip and it had nothing to do with her previous marriage or pregnancy. I was the only one thinking along those lines along with Wendy, who she claimed was just being stupid and messing things up, which disgusted her because it made me seem very juvenile and insecure. There was also the fact that I hadn't even bothered to reach out to her after the fight, even after making her feel horrible. I tried to tell her that I believed my concerns were valid because she had lied to me for years, but she ignored all that. She told me she would be out of town for a few more days and wanted me to think about everything and decide whether I wanted to act normally or continue making a mountain out of a molehill over something so trivial. She said that if I could accept her past and her unwillingness to talk about it, we could move forward and get therapy to deal with our emotions. But if I still had an issue with her wanting to name our son Philip, she would ask for a divorce because she couldn't be with a man who didn't understand her. She told me it was my decision and she would be okay with whatever I decided to do. Then she hung up the call before I had a chance to say anything else. I was conflicted about what to do, so I couldn't give her an answer when she returned a few days ago. She called me the day she got back and asked if I had decided. I told her I hadn't and needed more time to think about what I wanted to do. She said she was fine with that, but the longer I took to think, the less faith she would have in me, and that hurt. It's been a few days and I haven't spoken to her because I still don't know what to do. This is a really complicated situation. I want a future with her and my child, but she's acting so irrationally that I don't even know how that's possible. I really don't think what she did was right because she had been lying to me about something so significant for years, and I don't know if I can just forgive and forget. She has also been invalidating my feelings and making me feel like I'm overreacting, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. I can't talk to my friends and family about this because it seems too much to share with people I actually know. Update. Hey everyone, thanks for the advice and judgments. They were really helpful, so thank you for that. I was absolutely lost about what to do. With a heavy heart, I came to the conclusion that if we can't work things out with each other, divorce might be the only way out of this situation. But that's practically my last option, and I want to do my best to make things work, even though our relationship is very dysfunctional at this point. So, I told Dina that I wanted to make things work, and she said she did too, but that I needed to stop thinking only about myself. She said this over the phone, and it irritated me, but I didn't let it affect me because I needed her to come back home so we could talk and sort things out. So, I ignored that and told her we needed to have a conversation in person, and she agreed that we met last night when she came home to talk to me. I could tell she had been in some beach area because she was tanned, and I got instantly irritated because while I was going crazy here trying to think of a way to make our marriage work, she was out having fun at the beach. She was also very cold with me when greeting me and acted like we were strangers. So we started off on the wrong foot, but we still went ahead with the conversation that needed to be had. I brought up all the issues that had been bothering me over the past few days. I told her everything about how she had been invalidating my feelings and trying to minimize the seriousness of what she had done. Although I respected and understood that it was a traumatic experience for her, I couldn't just ignore all that I was feeling because she didn't feel comfortable talking about these things. I reminded her that we wouldn't even need to have this conversation at this stage in our relationship, after being married and now even expecting a child together. If she had been honest with me from the start, that I thought she would argue with me, but she didn't and said she understood where I was coming from and was sorry, which was a welcome change in her attitude towards the situation. But she didn't stop there and went on to say that although she was sorry for not being honest with me, she was also very upset with me because I had been horrible to her after the party when I found out the truth. It was very disturbing to know that I never stopped to think about my family because I was so selfish. I didn't understand what she meant until she said that she had been expecting me to call after the fight because she was pregnant, and it wasn't right for me to just ignore her that way. She was very disappointed that it took me 3 whole days to finally go after her. Her parents had told her that even on the day I visited them, I waited until after work to go look for her and talk to her, and she said that made her feel like she wasn't important enough to me, that I tried to defend myself because I was also in a bad place mentally at the time and was struggling to process and accept a lot of things. I apologized for that, but also said that she could have reached out to me as well, and she said she shouldn't have to do that because she was the one who was pregnant and I should be more concerned about her. I tried to tell her that I was concerned about her but was also human and feeling terrible, and that's why I didn't contact her first. Then she brought up how I didn't even try to find out where she was when I discovered she wasn't staying with her parents and was on a solo trip. She said anything could have gone wrong with her, and I wouldn't have known until it was too late. I thought it was strange that she was turning all this on me, so I told her I didn't go looking for her or try to find out where she was because I could understand she wanted some time away from me and all our relationship issues, which was why she left in the first place. I didn't want to bother her and make her even angrier. I also trusted her judgment and was sure she wouldn't do anything to put herself or our unborn child in danger because she was an adult and could think for herself. But that wasn't satisfactory enough for her as an explanation, and she told me I had let her down by not even trying to find her and protect her while she was in such a vulnerable state. And apparently that's why she said all those things about not wanting to be with me anymore and losing faith in me. I kept trying to explain to her that I was worried about her and was going crazy here, but didn't want to show up at a place where she went just to get away from me and make her even angrier. I wasn't willing to take that risk, so that's why I just stayed home and waited for her to come back. But she wasn't willing to accept that explanation, and we ended up having another fight. She said I didn't care enough about her and didn't know if she could continue with this. So she needed some more time away from me to understand how she felt about all this. She left after that, and we haven't spoken since then. Honestly, I have no idea what's going to happen, and we'll probably have to get a divorce because, personally, I can't think of any way this will work out. It's been frustrating for me because I really wanted to make things work, but it seems to me that she's not willing to budge from her position and is determined to paint me as the villain just for expressing my emotions and feelings. Update 2. I discovered something really terrible a few hours ago, and I think I should have seen it coming. I was talking to Wendy about the situation with Dina because no one else knew her as well as she did, and I was hoping she could help me somehow. We hadn't spoken since the day of the party, and I hadn't told any of my friends or family about the fights Dina and I were having. But today, I just couldn't stop thinking about everything and decided to call Wendy for help. I'm so glad I did because I don't think I would have found out about Dina's cheating otherwise. That's right, she was cheating on me. I don't know how long it's been going on and I don't know why, but she's back with Alex now. Wendy told me that Dina was really hoping I would reach out to her as soon as she answered my call, which was confusing because it wasn't like she and I were close and talked much on the phone. She didn't even let me speak and started telling me that she had been thinking of contacting me for several days, but didn't feel comfortable betraying her best friend and making things worse for Dina since she had already caused enough problems by telling me the real reason behind her first divorce and the story of the name Philip. So, she waited for me to contact her first. She then sent me a photo that Dina had posted on her Instagram a few days ago, and I'm sure she had hidden it from me by changing the privacy settings because I couldn't see any of her posts since our fight. I didn't understand what it was about because it was just a photo of her in a bikini lying on a lounge chair on the beach with her sunglasses on. It was a cool photo, but that was it, and I didn't notice anything strange. But then Wendy pointed out an arm in the corner. Another guy was lying on the next lounge chair, and the person had been cut out of the photo, but the arm was still in the picture. It was definitely a guy's arm. And Wendy told me she didn't think anything of it either until she noticed a tattoo on the guy's arm near the wrist. Upon zooming in on the image, she discovered it was a motorcycle tattoo identical to the one Alex had. It was a very small detail and no one would have noticed it, but she told me she remembered when Alex first got the tattoo, and Dina sent thousands of photos of them when they were married. Wendy even messaged Dina asking if it was Alex she was with at the beach, but she didn't say anything and just responded with a motorcycle emoji. Wendy told me she wasn't exactly sure if it was Alex or just someone with the same tattoo and even tried to say maybe it wasn't the same tattoo because it was quite pixelated. But I could clearly see it was in the shape of a motorcycle, it wasn't that pixelated, and Wendy was just trying to second guess herself so I wouldn't feel bad. But as soon as I saw that Dina responded with a motorcycle emoji, I started feeling sick to my stomach. It was typical of Dina to act superior about these things, and I already knew deep down that she was indeed cheating on me. After my call with Wendy, I decided to call my dad immediately and ask him to put me in touch with a divorce lawyer as soon as possible because I wanted out of this marriage. I sent a message to Dina asking about that photo, but she still hasn't replied. I really don't need her to respond because I already know the truth. I know she was definitely cheating on me, and that's why she was fighting with me so much. There's no other explanation for how strangely she was behaving. I feel terrible about this, of course, but it gives me an excuse to leave and put myself first without feeling guilty. I needed that because I'm tired of constantly dealing with her in these fights. I can't do it anymore and just want to be away from her. Update 3. Hey everyone. So it's been 2 months since I filed for divorce. There was a lot of confusion when I accused Dina of cheating on me with Alex, but eventually, she confessed that she had been involved with him behind my back for almost a year. Alex contacted her last year when he was in town for a work conference, and she decided to meet him one last time without telling me because she wanted closure, but they ended up getting back together, and he even quit his job and moved here permanently to be closer to her. She was trying to gather the courage to tell me she was with him, but just couldn't do it. She apologized for that, but that apology means nothing. There's a real chance the baby might not even be mine, and we're waiting for the baby to be born to decide who gets custody. I've decided that if the baby is mine, I'll get full custody, and if not, they can keep him. I'm seeing a psychiatrist to deal with all my feelings and trying to make sense of my life now. It's going reasonably well, and I'm just trying to keep myself together. Thank you to everyone who reached out to me here and commented on my post. It's very kind of you. Update 4. Hey, so a quick update. The baby was born a month ago. He is mine and I have full custody. The divorce was also finalized a few months ago, and I kept everything that was mine with no alimony either, which was a big disappointment for them, but that's what cheaters get, nothing. I'm considerably better than before and finally getting my life back on track. It's much easier when you don't have a crazy wife to deal with anymore. Once again, thank you very much for caring about me, everyone.